What if Mega Alakazam was in Gen 1 OU? Now, after doing Mega Gengar yesterday, I had a bit of fun with that. So I figured I'd just get Mega Alakazam out of the way. Not to mention, it just got me curious. Because Gengar was a Pokemon who I always assumed if you just got a good OU Pokemon, but made it better, it would be too much for OU to handle. But with the stats that Mega Gengar had, it wasn't really as big a deal as you thought. With 130 speed, it was a huge buff, like, no one's denying that. But it didn't make it overpowered, since it was only 130, still speed tying with Jolteon, Aerodactyl, and Mewtwo. And 170 special attack is insane, but without stab, you're not really, like, feeling the full impact of it. It's just a slightly stronger Gengar. So the end conclusion was that Gengar would be fine in Gen 1 OU. The only thing that wouldn't be fine would probably be regular Gengar and underuse. But would Alakazam be the same? I'm gonna say no. Because a lot of those things I said about Mega Gengar flat out don't apply for Mega Alakazam. Mega Alakazam is a completely different animal. And I'm gonna start by looking at the regular Alakazam. Also, how did both of these end up in underused borderline? That's just insane. But let's just look at regular Alakazam, shall we? So obviously, you're going to see a big buff in special attack. 175 is just, I think it's 21 points higher than Mewtwo. That alone is just absolutely insane. And even though it's using the physical special split in Gen 1 custom games, meaning that it's not as tanky as the regular Alakazam on the special side, 95 special is the same as Jinx, so it is still tanking things very, very easily on the special side. Especially since it's not scared of psychics, for obvious reasons. Or, okay, that's not entirely true. Obviously, when it comes to actually warrior special and whatnot, it does care a lot. For terms of the actual just base attack, it can obviously be used to resist those. And on my Gengar, you have actual stab. And yeah, 175 base special attack with Psychic, that is way too much to handle. Even Alakazam Psychic is one of the strongest attacks in the game, and it's not something you want to mess with. But along with being tankier on the special side, or at least what it should be doing, which it can, the way it makes up for that, outside of just being a offensive powerhouse, is... I was surprised this is a thing, but it got a buff to defense. I'm not sure why. Because, if you don't know, Mega Alakazam's entire lore is that it's spent so much time like harnessing psychic energy that any small touch would just completely break it. So why did they make it physically tankier? I don't know. But now it has Gengar's defense, and it's a big deal. A really, really big deal. That Mega Alakazam can take physical moves just a little bit better. Pokemon that it already had a good matchup against, such as Tauros, because while Tauros has the capability to kill Alakazam, with Alakazam being faster and having Thunder Wave and just a really strong Psychic, with or without crits, Tauros doesn't really risk it. But the fact that now Body Slam isn't a 2-hit KO, yeah, that's a big deal. A really, really big deal. And that is just hard to deal with. You know what's even harder to deal with? Mega Alakazam has 150 speed. Mewtwo has 130. Electrode, the fastest thing in Gen 1, that's its entire shtick, has 140 speed. It didn't get 150 until Gen 7. This is the fastest thing in Gen 1 OU. And it has the best crit rate, it has Thunder Wave as well. That's where this thing becomes too much for Gen 1 OU to handle. Because being that fast, yeah, no. Regular Alakazam is already one of the fastest thing in the format, with an astounding 120 speed. Now just, nothing wants to deal with this. And the fact that it has Thunder Wave is what makes it too much to handle, I would say. Because it's Gen 1. everything has a 25% chance to do nothing. Mega Alakazam outspeeding everything means that there's going to be a lot, and I mean a lot of games where Zam paralyzes something and then they immediately can't move. So essentially, Mega Alakazam gets a free turn. And a free turn with consistent damage and Seismic Toss all around, or with just your 150 speed stat, 175 special attack, with a stab psychic with a very, very, very high chance to crit. This thing does not deserve free turns, and along with those free turns, it has longevity with recover. If you don't want Seismic Toss, give it Reflect. Like I said, it already is tankier than Mega Alakazam, but just make it even more tanky. Suddenly, the physical attackers like Tauros just can't do anything without a crit. And why would they risk a crit? You are statistically more likely to get the crit than they are. There's just nothing you can do against this guy. And the fact that it's faster than everything means, just like Mega Alakazam, most of the tier is they could go either way. But with you always being faster, the could go either way is always going to be in your favor. Because since you're always going to have a chance to fish for the paralysis weapon before they can, or while both of you are paralyzed, you just have the statistically better chance to get the crit. And when I even talk about special drops, with special drops, this just becomes disgusting. So, it's definitely a Ubers Pokemon. And how good would it be in Ubers? I think that's a very good question. I think most people would assume it would be the third best Pokemon in the tier. But I don't know. I can still see Snorlax being really good. And with Snorlax being the one of the few things that can really threaten Zam, although Zam can threaten it right back, I think that just kind of makes Snorlax's job just even more important. I don't think it matters too much since most teams are Mew, Mewtwo, Chansey, Snorlax anyways. Zam would probably be the 4th or 5th best Pokemon in the tier. I would lean on 4th, because I feel like now with even more, really strong special attackers, Chansey has to, do its job even more. And if it's having to, waste all its resources on Mega Alakazam, it can't use those resources against Mewtwo. But at the same time, Mega Alakazam being faster, and having paralysis, as well as just a good special attack set with Psychic, means that Mega Alakazam, on its own, can be pretty good at wasting Mewtwo's resources. Actually, when I put it like that, I don't know. I think it's really hard to determine where Mega Alakazam would lie. But we'll find out later. Next season of Generation Jumble is still going to be Home Takeover, like I said. But for season, I think it'll be season 5, I am considering doing one with all of the Cantonian Mega Evolutions. So let me know which Mega Evolutions I still haven't covered. I know I still need to make a Pidgeot. I've done the Kanto starters, I've done Pinsir, Gyarados, Aerodactyl. What's left? Is it just make a Pidgeot? If it's just make a Pidgeot, I might do that, soon. But let me know in the comments what I still need to do. But for now, let's get on to the replays, shall we? Starting off with the boy himself, we got Tauros. And this is already a matchup I would say it's pretty good for Zam. Because Tauros very easily has the tools to kill Zam. But with it being faster and threatening powerful psychics, it can't risk it. And look at that! That Body Slam is not a 2-hit KO. So, it just does Zam's job even better. By the way, I was pretty confident that Gengar would be too much for Underuse to handle. Considering Kadabra is already good in Underuse, and Hypno was too much for the tier to handle, I think quite literally, no one is going to fault me when I say Zam will just be insta-banned. Unlike Gengar, I don't even think they would test it. I think it would just immediately go to, borderline. Now, Snorlax. Admittedly, one of the things that can threaten you a lot more. But with a great crit rate and paralysis, Snorlax very often just isn't able to do anything. And that's another thing that's just really annoying with Zam. It can just cheese wins with paralysis and special drops. And it just becomes much harder to switch into anything else. Because even the psychic resistances, ignoring the fact they don't like paralysis, ignoring the fact that Seismic Toss is still consistent damage on them, you have the strongest... Actually, I think you just straight up have the strongest attack in the game, not counting, Sword Stance Explosion. Because you're 175 special with Psychic. Yeah, there's absolutely no way Articuno hits harder than that. I'd be surprised if it did. But Snorlax, it can get lucky as well. Let's not deny that though. And Body Slam, well, just like Tauros is not only a 3-hit KO, which is a really big deal, as you can probably imagine. So, I really wish I had a good way of ranking this, because I have like one more replay with Amnesia Lax, but it really just feels like it's just Paralysis that decides who wins this. But I feel like there should be a more objective answer here. Am I just dumb? I don't know. But either way, seeing a non-boosted Psychic through a third to Snorlax is kind of terrifying. Especially when it very easily has the potential to do way more. Now, despite Amnesia Lax, on paper being better, I think it's actually a lot worse against Mega Alakazam. And that's because for all those turns you need to set up Amnesia, a crit at any point will just completely murder you. And Snorlax needs to get that high special to do any decent damage to Zam. So I think it just doesn't work out for you no matter what. Granted, if Snorlax just got one Amnesia up and went for Ice Beam or Thunderbolt, that would do pretty decent damage. But I just don't like it. Now, on paper, you can say Chansey is a bad matchup, since Chansey can paralyze Zam. But also keep in mind, it's Gen 1 OU. Your fast mons are inevitably going to get paralyzed. It's just how the game works. But to be fair, when both are paralyzed, just like with regular Alakazam, which is already pretty decent at just stalling out Chansey with special drops, the Mega does even better. Because not only does it have a great crit rate, and as you saw, a critical Psychic does a third to Chansey, but there's just not much Chansey can do here. So Zam, with the superior recovery with Recover versus Soft Boiled, can always stall out and defeat Chansey. Granted, with Paralysis, Chansey can definitely win, and since you have a very low base HP of 55, Seismic Toss does more to you than everything else in the tier. But still, if I had to put my money on Alakazam and Chansey, I'll usually put my money on Alakazam. Alright, next off, I believe this is Cloyster and... oh no, not Cloyster, Exeggutor. Exeggutor is actually a pretty interesting one to me, because it's super tanky, and if it had recovery, I would say it would be stronger than Zam, but it isn't. It has Psychic, which that alone just makes it quick either way. But Double Edge is a really good option that Zam kind of struggles with, but at the same time it has recovery. With both these guys being able to paralyze each other, though admittedly Stun Sport isn't always common on Exeggutor, it's could go either way, but I don't know which one's superior. I guess it just depends on the context of what's going on with the actual game itself, and who gets status first. That's also just a very big deal. Now, I believe this one is actually the Cloyster replay, and it's just pretty straightforward. Zam is fast, and it does even better against Cloyster than regular Alakazam. Cloyster can't do much other than blow up, but it's also very easy to send in Zam when Cloyster's already taken some good damage, so I think it's just a great matchup. And speaking of great matchups, doesn't matter if it's regular or Mega Gengar, Zam takes this very, very, very easily. It's not even worth talking about, really. Oh, by the way, I guess I'll talk about with this Jolteon replay. Since Jolteon's pretty straightforward, a very valuable Pokemon for paralyzing, but it's kind of weird considering Zam is faster, but it's a good go either way. But I haven't really thought about it until right now. But do you guys think Mega Alakazam would be a good lead? I know regular Alakazam is usually a lead, and I like to use it sometimes too, since I like to use very offensive strategies. But I don't think that'd be the case for Mega, since I think Mega is just way too valuable as a, late game cleaner to really even consider that. But who knows? Like here's how a lead Mega Alakazam could potentially do against Jinx. I don't normally use like sweeping moves for these replays anymore, but this one I don't know, I just feel like using it, since I feel like it's interesting considering Mega Zam would probably be a really good, sweep sack. Nowhere near as good as Starmie, but it potentially has the, chance to wake up and survive with those sleep turns. And granted, if Jinx is as unlucky as it is here, it's definitely in your favor. So, I don't know. Obviously, like, you can probably avoid sleep altogether with Sleep Claws, but even with, like, none of your Pokemon put to sleep, Zam has a decent chance of beating Jinx. So could go either way. Though watch out, because Stab Blizzard is still very powerful, and you definitely can't survive too many of those. This is just the regular Zam matchup, but you're physically tankier, and you have an even better chance of Oakling right on. So I think it's safe to call that a great matchup. But what do you think? You probably agree. I'll be surprised if you didn't. Now Slowbro, this is interesting. With your great crit rate, and with your main special attacking move, lowering special anyways, it could potentially do very well against Slowbro. But at the same time, Slowbro does resist Psychic, so even though a crit will do decent damage, it's not like Amnesia Lax, where you just can't survive at all. Slowbro can survive a crit, and has opportunities to go for rest. And Zam can't exactly take full advantage of a sleeping Slowbro to the point where it just instantly wins if you get a crit. And it's weird, because Zam would rather go for consistent damage with Seismic Toss to force Slowbro to sleep, but at the same time, it really wants to go for Psychic, fish for those crits, and get those special drops. So it's a very weird situation. Could go either way still, but I don't know which one has a better matchup. I'm pretty sure Slowbro is preferred here, since at the very least, it, can resist, and you're not always getting crits. Not to mention when you get, like, once you're fully set up, you just murder Mega Alakazam. So yeah, I think it's mostly in Slowbro's favor, but there are plenty of situations where Mega Alakazam can go on top. And Starmie, we have a few replays with Starmie, because Starmie versus Alakazam is one of my favorite matchups for regular RBY. In here, it's basically the same thing, but Zam just has more advantages than usual. With this greater speed, and just better crit rate, Starmie can have a very bad time, because like I said at the beginning of the video, where every single could go either way, considering Mega Alakazam will always be faster, and can go for Thunder Wave first, it's always going to have the advantage for what you see like right here. Always going to hit first with getting a special drop or getting paralysis, which means every single Psychic type just inherently struggles way more because of that. Because if two Psychic types are paralyzed and they're fishing for special drops, it can go either way. But Zam getting the first special drop, which is statistically is more likely to do because it's being faster, it just means some Pokemon like Starmie here, it can get really bad really quickly. However, that's not always the case, so let's look at another replay. This is one where Starmie gets a little bit better. And obviously Starmie has advantages too. Seismic Toss is good consistent damage, but Starmie also has recovery. And Starmie can profit all the special drops way more, because it has other strong neutral options such as Thunderbolt and way more importantly Blizzard. If Starmie gets a special drop first, that changes everything. Especially since with how Paralysis works in Gen 1, that ends up making Starmie faster. And one special drop means that you take a lot of damage from Blizzard. So don't count Starmie out just yet, it's still Starmie. It's one of the best Pokemon in RBY, and it's one of the best Pokemon for a reason. But just know it's a could go either way, but it's one where I honestly feel like just because Zam can move first, it's going to be a little bit in its favor. But neither Pokemon want to get paralyzed. Both can deal with it pretty easily, but they don't want to. They prefer to keep their speed, especially so that they can threaten Tauros. But yeah, that's just how that goes. Now next up is Victory Bell, and the only thing I had in my mind was if Victory Bell can even survive a Psychic, and it technically can. So congratulations Victory Bell, this is technically a win for you. But considering Zam won't be using OU in the first place, or if it was here, you better believe Victory Bell is gonna fall down the tiers again. But it's mostly gonna be an Uber's Pokemon, as you can probably tell. So there's just no reason to go for Victory Bell, because Victory Bell has no business in Ubers whatsoever. Now Zapdos. It could go either way. and it's not too much different from regular. Agility does give you a nice option if you're Zapdos, being faster than Zam. But you have a great crit rate, just like Zam does. Thunderbolt hits super hard. But even if Zam gets a special drop, you still have Drill Peck, which just does as much damage. But not as much as regular Alakazam, because of the boost to defense. But still, it's just could go either way. Now, considering how dominant Mega Alakazam has been, I definitely think it's fair to show how it does in Ubers. Although I'm still going to call this video a OU video. In fact, for most of the future videos, I'm going to keep calling them OU, unless it's something like Arceus or Regigigas, where obviously you can't even consider it being an OU. I think it's just better for the video, and just better for me, since I'm more likely to say OU just out of habit. But here's Mew. It absolutely hates being paralyzed. And I feel like, just like with Chansey, even though it's more so could go either way, I will be calling it a good matchup. But Mew hits really hard, and Body Slam can paralyze. But to be fair, Mew hates being paralyzed in the first place, so it's kind of struggling. So I don't really know how to rank this. I don't remember what I put in the tier list. I can see this being either bad or could go either way. Or you can maybe call it good if you think Mew hates paralysis that much. It's your call. I don't really have any strong opinions on Mew in Ubers. And last but not least, we have the king of OU himself, or not OU, Ubers. The king of Ubers himself, Mewtwo. Now, with Zam being faster, actually, let's replay that actually, right? Let's go back to the beginning. So we have Mewtwo, Vicenta, and Alakazam. Alakazam paralyzes, but see how Mewtwo didn't move? Like I said, sometimes Alakazam just gets free turns. And that one turn where Mewtwo could have gone for Amnesia, it didn't. Zam could have gotten even luckier with a special drop. So, yeah, this is very annoying. Although I would be saying it's a situation where Mewtwo is very scared. Because right now, with just one Amnesia, it already can two-hit Zam pretty easily. But you better believe Mewtwo's being annoyed by this. In Paralysis, if it's unlucky enough, Zam can kill Mewtwo. But it does need to get really unlucky for that to happen. But still, look at this. It's already used a few recovers. It's have to use some Amnesias. Mewtwo matchups usually end with Mewtwo versus Mewtwo, and both of them having to stall each other out. So, with Mega Alakazam here, forcing Mewtwo to give up very, very valuable power points, it's very bad. Also, funny enough, with how strong its special is right now, Mewtwo getting crits is actually a bad thing. It doesn't want to get crits against Alakazam. It would very much rather just hit with its max special. So, I find that funny. Overall, though, this is still, it's technically an unwinnable or bad matchup, but considering just how much Mewtwo hates being forced to, give up its valuable resources, I'm calling this a could go either way. And even look at this right here, that's already, Mewtwo had to use a few recovers, and it really doesn't want to. So now that I'm looking at it this way, I guess I can definitely lean towards Mega Alakazam being the third best and Snorlax being the fourth. But it's whatever. Here's the tier list though. And yeah, it's just too much for OU. Really, really good Pokemon. You really do wish there were some good bug moves, but there's not really. I don't think anyone's surprised to already see this though. Mega Alakazam is too much for OU to handle. But if I did a Jumble with Cantonian Mega Evolutions, it might be okay. Because not only do you have plenty of other just absolute powerhouses, such as Mega Kangaskhan, or at the Mega Charizards, I guess. We also have stuff like Mega Gyarados, which is literally a Dark type, which could potentially balance it out, but I am not completely sure. I'll have to find that out later once I make that a season. What do you think? Do you think Mega Alakazam will be too much for OU to handle? And how good do you think it would be in Ubers? Let me know in the comments below. But until next time, this is Groundback, and I look forward to hearing from you.